All right, hey guys, chapter 29 of Exodus. Most of this chapter has to do with sacrifices and how they're to do some of the sacrifices and so on and so forth. But there was the last few verses of 29, verses 43 to 46, really stood out to me, and the reason being is the whole reason why I started going back through Exodus was I was praying one day and I was doing some reading, and I really feel like God kind of revealed to me that or had pointed out some similarities between the Israelites being in Egypt and that being symbolic of us being in the world, them leaving Egypt and going through the wilderness, and that being symbolic of our Christian life, so to speak. Um, us being called out of the world, but still in the world. Uh, and then them reaching that point of peace, that the land of milk and honey, them them reaching that rest, and Hudson Taylor and John Wesley, a lot of people talk about this place of peace that they reach later on in their Christian life. How they were Christians. Hudson Taylor went to China and he preached for years and years and years. But he talks about what he calls the exchange life. Other groups, maybe know it as baptizing in the Holy Spirit. I'm not sure that I see it as that exact same thing, but basically what it was a place of peace. Chuck Smith even talks about it, how he ministered for years and years, uh, and he describes it as having the peace that he always had peace with God because he was a believer and he was a Christian, but that he did not yet have the peace of God. He had not yet learned to rest in what God had done. And a number of people have talked about this throughout their Christian life. So I began to kind of look at Exodus from that perspective, that place of peace that they reached was that land of milk and honey. Now, it didn't mean that they reached a sinless perfection. It didn't mean that they reached a point which they didn't sin anymore, and they were still obviously still in the world, but that they found this peace with God and they found this peace of God. So that being said, verses 43 through 46, it says, "And there I will meet with the children of Israel, and the tabernacle shall be sanctified by my glory." Notice that the tabernacle, which later on we see in the New Testament, that tabernacle is symbolic of our body, because the Holy Spirit actually comes and dwells within us, and we are His tabernacle. Uh, and there I will meet with the children of Israel, and the tabernacle shall be sanctified by my glory. It is God's glory that sanctifies us. It is by no means our efforts. Moses has already received the law at this point, and Paul talks about how the law is a schoolmaster to show us, to basically define this is right and this is wrong, so that we have a definition, we have a frame of reference of right and wrong. And without that, it's subjective. It's there's no way of determining, sin. So we define sin as sin meaning missing the mark. We define sin as missing the mark, and that mark being this sinless perfection, these 10 commandments upheld in their entirety, not just outwardly physically, but also inwardly spiritually. So uh, we see here that we're not sanctified by that, we're sanctified by God coming and dwelling within us. And in verse 44 he says, "I will sanctify the tabernacle of the congregation and the altar. I will sanctify also Aaron and his sons to minister to me in the priest's office." And we know that God does call some people to be pastors and teachers and preachers and stuff, and God sanctifies them to do that work. "And I will dwell among the children of Israel and will be their God." And that was something that really stood out to me, is because He calls them out of Egypt, just like He calls us out of the world. We start this Christian life, but He tells them, look, you haven't yet reached your destination. You haven't yet reached that place of peace, that land flowing with milk and honey. But I am still with you. I'm going to be with you. He says, I will dwell among you. And they shall know that I am the Lord their God, that brought them forth out of the land of Egypt, out of the world, that I may dwell among them, and I am the Lord their God. So that was something that really kind of stood out to me. You can comment, let me know if I'm off base. The more that I look at this, the more that I'm starting to see it from that perspective, and I'm seeing a lot of similarities. But you guys go ahead and look at that, and God bless.